The moon hung heavy and full above the treetops, casting a silver glow over the gathered wolves of the Silver Claw pack. It was a sacred night, the moon calling, when wolves came together to celebrate unity, strength, and above all, the blessing of the moon goddess. For Raya, it was supposed to be the night her life changed forever. She stood quietly at the edge of the firelit circle, her heart pounding beneath her ribs. The drums thudded in rhythm with her pulse. Wolves danced and laughed, some still in human form. Others shifted beneath the sky, their coats shining with health and pride. This was her pack, her people, and yet she'd never felt more alone. As the Omega, she wasn't expected to be at the center of anything. Omegas were tolerated, pitted, even sneered at. Weak-blooded wolves meant for the shadows, not the spotlight. But Raya had felt something stirring inside her for weeks now. A pull, a tension. Her wolf paced beneath her skin, restless and aching. And then the moment came. Alpha Kellen stepped into the firelight, radiant in both form and presence. Tall, golden-eyed, with a strength that made most bow their heads without question. Raya's breath caught the instant their eyes met. A jolt, like lightning through her veins. Her wolf howled inside her, clawing to the surface with a sound that almost tore from her throat. Mate. The word bloomed inside her like fire and honey and pain all at once. He was her mate, her destined one, her soul-pulled half. Raya froze, staring at him. The world fell silent, save for the thud of her heart. Did he feel it too? Was he coming toward her? Yes, he was. Kellen strode forward, his step slow, his face unreadable. For a moment, she dared to hope. Her fingers trembled at her sides. All her life she had been overlooked, stepped over, used, or forgotten. But if the moon goddess had chosen her as mate to the Alpha, then maybe, just maybe, she had worth after all. He stopped before her, so close she could see the fire reflecting in his golden eyes. Then he said it, coldly, clearly, loud enough for the entire pack to hear. I reject you. The words shattered the night like glass. Raya flinched as if struck. Her knees buckled, but she forced herself to stay standing. What? She choked out, her voice barely a whisper. I reject you, Omega Raya, Kellen repeated, his tone colder than winter. You are not worthy to be my mate. There was no confusion in his gaze. He had felt the bond, too. He was simply choosing to sever it. Publicly, a ripple of murmurs passed through the crowd. A few gasps. Others snickered. Lyra stepped forward. Kellen's favorite beta, beautiful and cold, the daughter of the Gamma. She smirked with victory, sliding her hand into Kellen's. No hard feelings, Lyra said, voice sweet as poison. The moon goddess makes mistakes sometimes. Raya's vision blurred with tears she refused to let fall. Her wolf whimpered deep within her, wounded beyond words. The bond frayed violently, a spiritual tearing that left her hollow, aching and ashamed. The pain of rejection was like claws raking across her soul. I didn't choose this, she whispered, more to herself than to them. But I do, Kellen said, and I choose her. The fire cracked behind him. The circle of wolves began to turn away, interest lost now that the drama had passed. No one reached for Raya. No one asked if she was all right. She was just the Omega again, and worse, the rejected Omega, in their eyes. She was lucky he didn't banish her outright. Her feet moved without thought. She turned, stumbling away from the circle, from the fire, from the humiliation, into the trees, into the dark. Snow began to fall, light, silent, uncaring. Her tears fell with it. Hours passed. Maybe more. She didn't know how far she ran. Her legs burned. Her lungs screamed. But still she kept going, chasing distance, chasing silence, chasing the impossible dream of not feeling this anymore. Eventually, her body gave out. She collapsed near a half-buried fire pit, an old, forgotten campsite deep in the forest. Her limbs trembled as she curled in on herself, wrapping her arms around her knees. Her breath came in ragged gasps. The silence here was thick. Not even the wind dared speak. Her wolf whimpered, low, defeated, not even strong enough to shift. I'm sorry, she whispered to herself, to the moon, to no one. I tried to be good enough. I really did. The fire pit was empty, save for a few dry twigs she managed to scrape together. She struck a match from the emergency kit tied to her belt, hands shaking so badly she nearly dropped it. A flicker, then flame, small, fragile, just like her. She stared into it, its flickering light dancing across her tear-streaked face. She didn't know what would come next. Maybe the cold would take her. Maybe a rogue would find her. Maybe this was the end of her story. Not with a roar, but a whimper. But the fire burned on, even as snow kissed the edges. And somewhere, far in the night, unseen eyes watched her from the trees. Not all wolves were born to packs. Some were drawn by flame. The fire had burned low. Its thin orange glow licked the dark like a dying whisper, barely warming Raya's fingertips. She sat huddled beside it, her legs pulled to her chest, arms wrapped tightly around her knees. Her clothes were damp with melting snow. Her breath came out in short, foggy clouds. The emptiness inside her was vast, silent. The rejection gnawed at her like frostbite, not just emotional, but spiritual. Her wolf lay curled and silent in the depths of her being, too wounded to stir. She stared into the flames with glazed eyes. She hadn't moved in hours. She didn't even know what time it was, only that the forest had long since gone still, the moon hidden now behind heavy, overcast skies. But something had changed. She didn't notice it at first. The air was just different, heavier, thicker, like the woods themselves had begun holding their breath. Then a sound, so soft she almost missed it. Snow crunching, not from one direction, but from many. Her heart jolted, every muscle in her body tensing. She reached for the stick she'd sharpened earlier, more for comfort than effectiveness. It was barely longer than her forearm, useless against predators, but she clutched it like a sword. Eyes wide, she scanned the trees. Silhouettes. Shadows moved at the edge of the firelight. Quiet, purposeful. Massive shapes padded forward from the gloom, one by one, slipping out of the night like spirits. Wolves. Not one, not two, 20. Her breath caught in her throat as the circle formed. A perfect perimeter of fur, fangs, and flickering amber eyes. They didn't growl. They didn't lunge. They just lay down, one after another. Each wolf lowered itself to the snow, forming a loose, deliberate ring around her, heads resting on their paws, breath misting into the cold air, silent and watching. Raya sat frozen, the sharpened stick still trembling in her hand. "What?" she whispered. "What is this?" No answer, only the quiet shifting of fur against snow. Then one of the wolves moved, the largest, a hulking gray with a scar running from ear to jaw. Stepped forward. He shifted mid-step, bones cracking and limbs stretching until a tall, broad man stood before her in the snow. He was bare-chested, wearing only loose pants. Scars marred his arms and torso, not fresh but long-healed, like claw marks in old battles worn like armor. His dark hair was tied back, and his eyes glowed with the lingering gold of his wolf. "You're safe," he said, voice rough but calm. "We won't hurt you." Raya gripped her stick tighter. "Who are you?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he crouched beside the fire and added a few more branches from a small satchel slung over his shoulder. The flames grew stronger, brighter. Then he looked at her. "I'm Torin," he said, "and we're like you." She frowned. "Like me?" He nodded once. "Rejected, cast out, forgotten by the ones who were supposed to protect us." Raya's lips parted, but no words came. Another figure approached from the circle, a woman this time, lithe and elegant, with midnight black hair and piercing gold eyes. She wore a thick cloak of stitched leathers and wolf fur. When she spoke, her voice was warm, almost maternal. "We felt it, you know," she said gently, "when the bond was broken, that kind of pain it ripples." Tears welled in Raya's eyes again, unbidden. "You felt me?" "We always do," the woman said, kneeling beside Torin. "You howled, even if not with your mouth, and we listened for those howls." "I didn't call anyone," Raya whispered. "I didn't even know that we exist." Torin finished for her. "Most don't. That's the point. Raya stared at them, trying to make sense of it. 20 wolves. 20 outcasts. They weren't rogues in the usual sense, not feral, not savage. There was something else here. A quiet strength. A bond that didn't come from rank or blood or matehood. They were pack. Just not by tradition. What do you want from me? Raya asked finally. Nothing, said the dark-haired woman. We came because you were alone, and we remember what it was like to be that alone. That cold. Torin tilted his head. You can come with us if you choose. Stay the night, or stay longer. We won't force you. Raya hesitated. Her fingers were still trembling. Her wolf stirred faintly now, ears perked, sensing something it hadn't felt in a long time. Safety. Not the kind that came from walls or alphas, but the kind that came from being seen, being understood. Why would you help someone like me? She asked, voice cracking. I'm just an omega. Torin's eyes darkened. So are half of us, he said simply. The woman beside him smiled, sad and proud at once. Omega isn't weakness. They just taught you that so you'd stay small. A long silence passed. Raya stared at the fire, her tears finally drying on her cheeks. Slowly, cautiously, she reached out and placed her stick aside. She didn't say the words, I'll stay. She didn't have to. The circle shifted slightly, wolves adjusting, letting her feel the warmth of their presence without pressing too close. They lay there with her in silence, their bodies rising and falling in rhythm, surrounding her like sentries, like a heartbeat. She closed her eyes, and for the first time since the bond shattered, she slept, not because she was exhausted, but because somehow she felt safe. Raya woke to the scent of pine, ash, and fir. Sunlight filtered through the canopy in ribbons of pale gold. The snow had stopped during the night, and now a soft, frozen hush blanketed the woods. She blinked slowly, her body aching, but not in the way it had before. She was warm. The fire still smoldered gently beside her. Around her, wolves still slept or stirred, stretched out in the snow, nestled together like a makeshift family of breath and heartbeat. One of them, a reddish-brown wolf with a notch in its ear, stood and padded toward her. It shifted mid-step, revealing a tall, wiry man with sharp cheekbones and playful eyes. You're awake, he said, smiling. Thought you might sleep another day. Raya blinked up at him. How long? Just the night, said another voice, Torin. He emerged from the trees, already dressed, already sharp-eyed. We stayed close in case you ran. Most do the first time. I didn't want to run, she said softly, still sitting. I just didn't know where else to go. Torin gave her a long look, unreadable. Then you're already ahead of most. The banished. In the days that followed, Raya came to understand what she had stumbled into. They called themselves the banished, but not out of self-pity. It was a statement, a truth, a rebellion. There were 20 of them, not all Omega, not all rejected, but each marked in some way by the cruelty of traditional pack life. Some had been cast out for disobedience. Others had lost their mates, had their bonds broken, or had refused arranged pairings and paid the price. But they didn't mope. They trained. They lived off the land, moving through hidden networks of abandoned dens and way stations, places no pack patrolled anymore. They knew how to fight together, how to blend, how to disappear, how to protect their own. They had built something in the margins of the world, a pack without alphas, without forced hierarchy. Raya was expected to contribute, not because they demanded it, but because they trusted her to. It was strange at first. No one gave orders. They simply worked, watched, moved like water around one another. Torin was a natural leader, not because he asserted dominance, but because people chose to follow him. He taught her hand-to-hand combat during the day, coaching her through stances and footwork with patient, brutal honesty. You don't need to be stronger, he said during one session, knocking a training knife from her hand. You need to stop apologizing. I'm not. Yes, you are, he said, holding her eyes. Every time you flinch, every time you second-guess, that's you apologizing for taking up space. She gritted her teeth and picked the knife up again. Nara's words. At night. She often sat with Nara, the black-haired woman who had first knelt beside her. Nara was the unofficial heart of the Banished, a healer, a mentor, and a quiet observer of broken things. One evening, as they sat by the fire wrapping herbs, Raya finally asked, "How did you end up here?" Nara didn't flinch. "My mate died in a raid. My pack said it was my fault, that my connection to him made him weak. They offered me to his brother like a gift. I refused, so they beat me until I ran." Raya stared at her. "I'm so sorry." "I'm not," Nara said calmly. "Not anymore. That pain carved me into something stronger." She looked at Raya, eyes soft but fierce. "And it's carving you too. Let it. The bond that wasn't." Even as she healed physically, the scar inside remained. The bond, the one Kellen had rejected, hadn't fully disappeared. At night, she still felt the echo of it, like a phantom limb. A tether frayed but not fully snapped. Rejection doesn't always cut clean, Torin told her when she confessed this. Especially when it's one-sided. You felt it. You wanted it. That doesn't vanish overnight. "How long does it take?" she asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he stepped forward and pressed 2 fingers gently to her sternum. "It takes as long as you need to take yourself back from them." A different kind of pack. One afternoon, as they hunted together, Raya saw the Banished in action. Truly saw them. It was like watching a dance. Silent hand signals. Flashes of fur. They took down a deer without a single howl, using only body language and timing. There were no commands. No barking orders. Just trust. She realized suddenly that this wasn't survival. This was strength. Real strength. Not born of dominance, but of unity, of choice, of respect. She wasn't weaker here. She wasn't pitted. No one saw her as less because of her rank or her past. Here, she was just Raya, and she was learning who that actually was. The scent on the wind. But peace, as she would soon learn, never lasted. On the 7th night, while gathering water from a stream with Ember and Ash, the wolf twins who rarely spoke, she caught a scent on the wind that made her entire body stiffen. Silverclaw, her old pack, her old life, her rejection. It was faint, a trail several hours old, maybe a scout or patrol, but it was real. Raya's hand went to the hilt of the dagger Torin had given her. She didn't say anything at first. She just listened to the forest, the way she had learned to, the way the Banished did. The pull in her chest wasn't fear. It was something else. Something hot and quiet and certain. Resolve. The forest knew before the wolves did. Birds fled at dawn. Small animals vanished into burrows and roots. Even the wind seemed to pull back, whispering warnings through the bare branches. Raya felt it in her bones the moment she woke, a pressure in her chest, heavy and unmistakable. They were coming. She stood at the edge of the Banished camp, the fire crackling low behind her, watching Torin gather the others with a single lifted hand. No alarm howl, no panic, just motion, fluid, deliberate. They crossed the eastern markers before sunrise. Hale reported, shifting back into human form. For scouts, heavy scent. Silverclaw, Ember muttered. Raya swallowed. Her pulse thundered in her ears, but she didn't step back, didn't hide. The ache in her chest sharpened, not with longing this time, but with anger. Torin looked at her, not as a leader assessing a liability, not as an alpha measuring strength, as a wolf asking another wolf's choice. "We can move camp," he said calmly, "disappear like we always do, or we can stand and make it clear this ground isn't theirs." The Banished waited. So did the forest. Raya took a step forward. "No," she said, her voice surprised even herself. Steady, unbroken. "I won't run again." A hush fell. "They rejected me," she continued. "Cast me out, and now they're hunting me like I'm prey. If we leave, they'll keep coming. Not just for me, for anyone they think they can crush." She lifted her chin, eyes burning. "This ends tonight." Something changed then. Not in the Banished. They had already chosen long ago to stop kneeling. It changed in her. Torin nodded once. "Then we stand." The Alpha who came too late. They didn't wait long. By dusk, The silver-claw wolves emerged from the trees, armored in confidence, rank, and old laws. Alpha Kellen led them, golden eyes sharp, expression curling into a sneer the moment he saw her. Raya stood by the fire, framed by flame and shadow, the banish spread behind her in a loose crescent. No one bowed. No one lowered their gaze. Kellen's lip curled. There you are. I wondered how long you'd survive. You came to drag me back? Raya asked, or just to remind yourself you still had power over someone? His eyes flicked to Torin. She belongs to my pack. No, Torin said evenly. She belongs to herself. Kellen laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. You think this rabble can protect her? Omegas, rogues, broken wolves playing at pack. Raya stepped forward before Torin could respond. You rejected me, she said, publicly, cruelly. You broke a sacred bond because you thought it made you look weak to choose me. She met his gaze without flinching, but you were wrong. The air crackled, not with dominance, but with something older. Choice. You don't own me, she said. You never did. Kellen's smile vanished. You don't get to decide that. Then he lunged. The battle of the banished. The forest exploded into motion. Wolves shifted mid-stride. Snow churned. Fire flared as embers scattered into the dark. The banished moved like a single living creature. No shouted commands, no hesitation. Raya shifted too. Her wolf surged forward. Not small, not broken. Lean and fast. Eyes blazing silver. She met Kellen head-on, claws striking, fangs snapping. He was strong. Stronger than he remembered her being, because she was no longer afraid. Around them, the banished overwhelmed the Silverclaw warriors with speed and precision. Ember and ash moved as mirrors. Nara dragged wounded banished to safety even as she fought. Torin faced Kellen's beta with brutal calm, ending the fight in seconds. Kellen snarled as Raya slammed into him again, forcing him back toward the fire. You were nothing without us, he shouted. She shifted back mid-motion, standing before him, chest heaving. I was nothing to you, she corrected. That's not the same thing. The bond between them flared suddenly, the last, desperate echo of something that should have been sacred. She felt it, and then she let it go. With a sharp breath, she reached inward, not with claws, but with will, and severed what remained. The pain came, but it passed. Kellen screamed, dropping to one knee, the backlash ripping through him. Raya stood tall. A new howl. By dawn, the Silverclaw pack was gone, retreating, broken, stripped of the illusion that dominance made them untouchable. The banished gathered near the fire, bruised but standing, alive. Raya looked around at them, at Torin, at Nara, at every wolf who had chosen her when they didn't have to. I don't want to be an alpha, she said quietly. Torin smiled faintly. Good. But I will lead, she continued. Not by force, not by fear, by choice. One by one, the banished lowered their heads, not in submission but in acknowledgement. As night fell once more, the fire burned bright. Raya sat beside it, warmth at her back. And that night, a pack of 20 wolves laid around her, not because she was weak or broken or needed protection, but because she was theirs, and they were hers. She lifted her head and howled, not in pain, not in loss, but in triumph, and the forest answered.